So, my dissertation. I want to base it on graffiti, but not just graffiti itself. Photography or film when it comes to graffiti. Because I think it should be appreciated more. It's not appreciated enough in my opinion. People see it as vandalism, I see it.
I mean, I was once in League Street and there was a guy there taking pictures. It was something to do with the government. Bloody vandals. And he went, I could hear him, like only bloody vandals, were taking pictures. And I said, went to me, do you paint? I said, no, I actually sell the paint. Oh, he went, so you're to blame for all this? I said, no. I said, but what's the problem? I said, this is a legal war. They come here, they're expressing themselves, they're portraying something they feel, the colours they want to put up there. I said, you don't realise the foreplay before this happens. It's not something they just come along and do. Before this happens, they actually pick their colours, they have a plan, they have a theme, they have a character, they have a letter, and they come here and they execute that on the wall. And they get a high out of that. So how can you sort of, call these people whatever? I said, if I gave you a can and asked you to write your name, I said, you wouldn't be able to write it. I used to think they all went to school, initially, to learn. He goes, no. I said, you could just practice, and then you just pick up the skills. You watch the next guy, you pick up tips from him, and you just, mature your craft. And, a lot of people don't know this. Unless you're in it, to me, this is like a secret world. Unless you're in it, you'll never understand. Like myself, 3 years ago, if you'd said to me graffiti, I said, what are you talking about? What graffiti, mate? They don't still write. The last time I remember was the Beastie Boys and things like that. Because if you're not in it, you miss it.
How much?
I watch it, and I believe, some of these guys have phenomenal skills. Phenomenal skills.
So I thought that's a good subject to even start on. Some of the stuff I can write in my dissertation could also make reference to myself in my own work, such as time, costs, locations, weather, just for doing my work. So a lot of graffiti artists can also maintain that as well.
So a guy walked in talking to me about graffiti paint this and graffiti paint that, and I said, surely people are not still graffiti painting. I thought it was something that was done in the 80s. He says, no, it is, it's been done. Anyway, I went down to Markfield Park, which is a local skate park where a lot of graffiti artists go and paint. Anyway, in going down there, I realised that graffiti was really strong up and going. So I started to do my inquiries, what paints are being used and what's been happening. And I slowly got into the graffiti game.
But if artists are commissioned to do stuff, they'll do it in a day, because they're commissioned to do it, they don't have to do it at night. So most of the stuff I want to talk about is quite easy subjects to talk about, but I think graffiti it's not changing, but it's more becoming an art compared to just, I'll put my tag here, I'll put my tag there. As that's the type of graffiti, but some of them are murals, some of them are artist pieces, such as artists like Banksy. And one subject I really want to talk about is Banksy's feud with Robbo in the early 80s, where Banksy had written over one of Robbo's most prized pieces. So this started a conflict between them, and they decided to try and make two teams and constantly draw over each other's work. But then, sadly, Robbo fell down a flight of stairs and was found unconscious, and he was in a coma for 4 years before he sadly passed away. But the one piece that Banksy originally wrote over was one Robbo did in 1985. Now it's there, but it's a tribute piece to Robbo in black and white with a spray can and a candle, well, a spray can with fire looking like a candle for Robbo as he's passed away. So Robbo was meant to be commissioned 2 days before, another gallery commissioned Robbo's work 2 days before he passed away, so he was never able there to see it, but it was in an art gallery for people to buy. But Banksy's stuff is just getting sold at auction for millions of pounds, but Banksy sees it as, I'm going to vandalise this, such as what you've seen on the news where he shredded one of his pieces in the gallery just after the hammer had went down on the sold piece, just to get his own way. So that's another thing I can talk about, artists doing stuff because they don't want the public to see it, or they don't want publicity from it, they just want to do their tags, just as artists want, which is understandable. But
there's people I've met painting that have just got the most normal jobs. Like some of them are, I've seen like building surveyors, estate agents. I think someone told me there was like 2 people are lawyers. They're into law, and they're painting trains. And some of them have got kids. There's geezers that paint legal walls now. They've got grandkids. That's mad. You think some people they still want to do it so much, and have so much time for it as well.
And I do believe graffiti is a way of discharging frustration. Because I watch these guys, they go into a zone, and for that 40 minutes or 2 hours or 4 hours that they paint, they walk away content with themselves. They've discharged, bad energy, you come away feeling better for yourself. And then once you're able to do pieces that are a bit more acceptable and, more likeable, you get more satisfaction out of it. Otherwise, people wouldn't be just painting week after week after week if they're not getting something back from it.
For myself, I feel like I don't think I'd ever stop painting. I think it'd always be about, everyone would always be doing it. It's one of the things you wouldn't stop anyway, even with this new thing with the stations and that, when they stop the barriers, it will still always be going. They'll never stop people painting. It's just one of them things, everyone's jumping on it. Yeah, I don't think it'll ever end.
I've come into graffiti quite, I wouldn't say late, but I would say I'm not practiced enough. So I've started doing my tags on random things that I could find, such as old doors from the house, old mirrors, an old fridge that we've even got outside. So I'm just spraying on them, just practicing. So anyone can do it.
And you've got to remember, these guys are not going to college, university, art school or anything. All these guys are self-taught, and that's the magic of it.
My name is Stack, I've been writing for 4 years. I got into graffiti because I started at school. I was tagging at school with one of my friends, and I just kind of thought that was the sort of thing I'd wanted to do. And one day I was on a pub crawl. One of my mates, he came up to me, introduced me to another boy who lived near me. And he was on it, he was on doing everything, like painting trains, painting walls, we used to do everything. And plus, he was older, so at the time I was 16, and he had a flat and that, so I could go to his after. And then obviously my mum and dad wouldn't moan, and I think there's no one me coming in 4 o'clock in the morning because I've been painting trains and that sort of thing. But yeah, that's how I kind of went from there really. I went from chilling with him, and then it took a turn because I was going to legal walls, and then my pal kind of got me onto painting trains and doing train yards and things like that, so I've done local ones and then me. See, painting, you want your name everywhere with graffiti, you want it absolutely everywhere, there's nowhere you don't want it. So having your name on all the trains, all the fronts, any barriers, ticket barriers, anything on the... That's why the trains are used so much, the trains and the train lines, everything like that. It's used so much because so many people use it. So sometimes you see people, like even regular people, you talk to your mum and dad or something, they'll say, oh, did you see that graffiti at the station of that cool character or something? You see that sort of thing and you think, like, people do notice that. It does get noticed by normal people as well as people who paint, because it's not easy to pick it up and do it. But there's plenty of people I've seen that are just unbelievable as well. Like some people I've painted with are just out of this world. You see people painting, they're just some things they can put up.
Think about what you're doing rather than just doing it for the sake of it. Think, would people want to see this? It's art, it's not just tag there, tag here. It's art in my opinion. It should be appreciated more, but it's not appreciated at all. People just see it as, oh, someone sprayed there, that's vandalism. Well, it's not. It's art at the end of the day. But people just don't often see that. People just think, oh, they've done it to get their name out. Yes, they have, but they've also done it for a reason. They wouldn't have just put it there for no reason. And I believe that that's quite a powerful way of getting your name across. But it's also a way to change things. So my dissertation.
And as time went on and I got to meet people and realise that they are genuinely a nice bunch of people. All they're interested in is doing what they love, which is to paint. I mean, people say they're vandals and this and that, and I disagree with that, because you have vandals in football, you have vandals in rugby, you have vandals in everything. So I don't see why they demonise graffiti as a vandal's hobby. It's actually, in my eyes, a lot of intellectual people that do graffiti, because you got to understand, these guys have never been to university, have never been taught how to do it. All these guys are self-taught people, you know?
Could be written on a lot of things, because it's 5,000 words and I've got a lot to talk about, but I want to base it more on the photography side of things when it comes to graffiti, because photographers don't really look at graffiti, they just look at landscapes, portraits, etc. Have more of a audience compared to having no audience whatsoever. So there's a lot to talk about in my dissertation. I just thought I'd do this video just to brief what I could talk about.